All right, welcome to our 10th episode of TACTALK. I'm your host, Alden Morris. We're going to have two segments today, going briefly over some current events in this first one here. Some current events, and first I'd like to apologize for my cancellation of my show Saturday. We're working with different people who can be on the show, and depending on logistics and their schedule availability, there are some conflicts that arise. So, not going to name names who wasn't able to be on the show because I don't want to get people any type of disappointed or anything like that. However, I am excited to have these people on the show. So do stay tuned. I will make that an obvious thing once they are on the show. But beforehand, I'll kind of give you clues here and there as to who might be on the show. Some current events that just happened here recently is Seahawks co-owner Paul Allen has passed away. He's also well known for being one of the co-founders of Microsoft. He passed away here yesterday, Monday. His Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen died at 65 from complications of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He's one of the few Seattle billionaires actually out there that was a philanthropist and owned several different businesses or sports teams, whatnot. Two of the most well-known were the National Basketball Association's Portland Trail Blazers, which happened to be actually one of my favorite teams when I lived in Portland when I was a young little kid. And of course, the National Football League Seattle Seahawks. So he was the co-founder of Microsoft, and since then, was obviously very well into his business. And condolences to his family. Anybody who experiences loss, especially that of a loved one, a very stable, close loved one, usually has it harder as opposed to family members who haven't been in the picture. And I've come from an experience with lots of family members passing away that represented those exact things, and vice versa. However, the only conflict I have is his lifestyle or his train of thinking when he lived his life. For example, he was actually, many of you know, I spoke at the I-594 rally down in Olympia here in Washington State. The event rally hosted by Gavin Syme, who gave me a 10-minute spot to do a speech in front of a couple thousand people, to be honest. About 3,000 people circulated to and from during the whole event, but I must have spoke at least in front of 1,500 to 2,000 people, which is my first public speech on that kind of a scale. So that was a really great opportunity for me. And those kind of things only got to happen because the people rallied and went against people like Paul Allen, who's, a single individual with lots of disposable income, who can donate to these things or these legislations that, I guess, give power more to the politicians, take away from the people, and do nothing to stop criminals. He donated at his time, I believe it was $500,000 to support I-594 of his own disposable income. And then, of course, that ended up passing. And we put a lot of work and put a lot of our own finances and time and effort and thought and energy into that legislation, tried to be stricken down, and somehow it still passed because money buys things. He also supported Initiative 1639 with $1 million of his own disposable income. So that's another frustrating thing is that's one of those bills that I've done on a recent podcast here where I actually played the judge's words himself where he dropped it because of it wasn't exactly honest legislation. It did a lot of things to hide the truth. It was very confusing. Didn't support or have even the language needed to be proper legislation. Somehow it found itself back on the ballot. And that's because, again, people like Paul Allen, the few Seattle billionaires who are out there paying their own disposable income to support this anti-gun legislation, make it happen, and we can't. And here's the confusing part. He's also supported Republicans by giving $100,000 of his own disposable income. So not only is he against guns, he's part of that anti-gun legislation and agenda. But let me check my mic here. Sorry about that. He has also donated much more than I could of his own disposable income to the opposite and opposing parties, such as the Republicans, who fight against this anti-gun legislation. So it's almost like he's fueling and funding both sides of the war here. So whichever one has the better outcome, he still has that stakehold, that financial stakehold wrapped around there. So very interesting. I personally, condolences to his family. I was not a big fan of the guy. I've had friends that have graduated with high school play and win Super Bowls for the Seahawks, and I do what I can to take that as motivation to continue my own success, not to take my time, my effort, my money, my energy, and my interest, and to devote it all to someone or something that doesn't profit me in some way in return, that doesn't, provide for me and my whole family. So, like I said again, I've had friends who've played for Seattle Seahawks and won Super Bowls with the Seattle Seahawks, and because of my passion for what I do for a living, I do not support Paul Allen or Paul Allen's team. So, moving on. On that note, I would like to give a shout out before this first segment ends here real quick. We got about 20 seconds. To the people who have been helping go against Paul Allen's initiative on I-1639 and all his money. And that'd be Jerry Cummins, Barbara Cummins, Nikki, Jeremy Linn, Scott Sparks, and Allen Acosta. Thank you guys for your efforts, for your help. It's been awesome watching that thing happen on social media, where you guys are out there getting signs up in areas that signs aren't usually located, that support the opposement of 1639, and getting signs in the people who are mostly the blue area. So thank you again, and we'll be back right after this commercial break.
Combat Systems at beescombatsystems.com, protecting those who prepare. 801-987-0893 for custom body armor carriers and tactical gear for military, law enforcement, contractors, corporate security, responsible citizens, and border patrol. Bees Combat Systems at beescombatsystems.com. 801-987-0893.
Hi, welcome back to our second segment of TACTALK with Alden Morris. In the first segment, we spoke about Paul Allen's death and my conflictions. Regardless of my condolences to his family, but my conflictions and some of the support and efforts that a lot of people that I know personally and that I've gotten to see make a huge impact through social media have made so far in our communities. And again, kudos and congratulations to those people I called out. I look up to you guys a lot. Thank you. So moving on, I wanted to talk about one of my personal favorite radio show hosts here in Seattle, Washington, actually, who is Dori Monson. Started listening to him years and years ago, and just kind of naturally agreed with a lot of the things he said, and things that I didn't know what he was talking about, kind of read into myself and find out that I kind of formulate an opinion that's much along the same lines as his own. And there's hard, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of things I've disagreed with before with him, but they're mostly, belittle type, like small, amusing type deals. So many I'm not even going to be able to bother to name some, but when it comes to the most important topics, like what I'm about to read here, I see that he sees the blunt truth of the matter, and one of those things is these Portland and Seattle mobs that are going around called ANTIFA, anti-fascists. And I've been trying to stay away from this topic for as long as possible due to its controversialness. I'm trying to make history, not headlines. This seems like, to me, at first, one of those weekend fad things. We got a bunch of people getting together and claiming that they're anti-fascist, like the anarchist groups that used to break windows in Seattle back in the day. But these guys have kind of escalated and come to find out they're also being funneled and fueled money by certain billionaires and things like that. So one of the things that happened here not this past weekend, but the weekend before, were some mobs that went through down in Portland, which really made a significant impact and became very well noticed by police and people who were standing by, that police had to stand down when it comes to these mobs that just take over traffic and things. So real quick, an excerpt from his article, Dori Monson. What happened in Portland this past weekend was absolutely horrifying. In Portland, Antifa is quite the force. They took over the streets downtown Portland because of a police shooting of an African-American 26-year-old Patrick Kimmons in Portland about a month ago. The mob is unbelievable to watch. Antifa stands in the middle of the road and directs people to turn right rather than drive straight, where the mob has taken over. Portland cops are sitting in their cars, all in eyeshot of this, and they allow the mob to run the streets. Again, that's because they're told by the Portland mayor to stand down, which, again, is one of those things where you don't have to always obey unlawful orders. So an unlawful order of stand down, yeah, that makes your job a little bit easier, but now you're putting people in dangerous way. Your job is to uphold and protect the citizens, supposedly. as not just the policies and the laws of the land. And directing and blocking commerce is illegal. So unless you have permission from, the people who are affected by the commerce, you can't go out there and just start blocking off road. And the people kind of need to step up a little bit. If you remember the riots down in LA, don't stop your vehicle ever on the side of a road. So if you get random people who are blocking the road and got cops not doing anything, run their asses over. It's likely that crowd mentality is going to allow you not to get in trouble. So, and if you do get pulled over, fuck, dude, you're getting away from the danger. The cops are going to have to intervene then at some point, so there you go. You just helped the whole thing out. But stay safe. Moving on. One thing that is really impressive is Dori Monson's coverage of Antifa moves not just from what's going on in Portland and calling out the blunt truth, but to specifically the focus on the opposition of Antifa. And here I have a small clip that I want to play that mentions Joey Gibson, which I've been fortunate enough to meet him in person, and I've seen his rallies, and I've seen his speeches in live person, and he's a very outstanding person. I do wish him the best of luck. I do look forward to him. I think that he's leading a great cause. I wish him safety along the way. That's the one thing I'm most concerned about for him, is that he keeps a tight-knit, trustworthy group of peers that would never turn his back on him, that would never turn their backs on him, that just simply are out there to protect him and protect his voice and his opinion. So, seeing what I thought this was, I guess a year ago when this first kind of started, this Antifa thing. So it was no longer a weekend fad, and it's getting national coverage now. And so here's a small excerpt from Dori Monson that I want to give a shout out to Joey Gibson too. Very impressive.
Erupts into violence. Yesterday at a Patriot Prayer rally down in Portland, there were all kinds of Antifa, and once again you saw fights break out. The leader of Patriot Prayer is Joey Gibson. He joins us here on Cairo Radio. Joey, you just can't stay out of trouble, can you?
I guess not.
Tell me what went down. Hey, first of all, are you still running for Senate here in Washington?
Yes, sir, I am running. Susan Hutchinson stepped in. The Republicans found an establishment figure to put up there, so I'm going to, I've been traveling the state like crazy, unlimited funds, giving speeches 3 or 4 times a week. And so I'm definitely running, and I'm going to push all the way through August.
Okay, so I want to stop it there because this is dated back from June, but Dori Monson continues to cover Joey Gibson, which is impressive, especially with his highlights with what's going on these past few weeks. So congratulations to Joey. Keep up the great work. We will all support you in any way we can, whether it's actually physically being out there or spreading the coverage ourselves. So keep up that great work. That's why, again, I mentioned the people from earlier. They're doing a great job of what we all can contribute ourselves. We all can't always be out there dedicated and motivated. We have our small responsibilities and our loyalties elsewhere as well when it comes to family and friends. But when it comes to our community, we all can participate. We all can lend a hand, lend a thought, lend a voice, whatever. So thank you again, guys, for listening in. Again, shout out and thank yous and congratulations to all those. Keep up the great work, and excuse me if I offend any people, but one less Seattle billionaire to work against work with this anti-gun legislation and work against those people. So again, thank you guys. Keep up the great work. Have a good night. We'll see you guys on Thursday.